Hi, today is Monday, March 28th, 2022. I have coughing, especially nose. Last night, my water boiler system went down and I slept in a little bit cold, not cold, but warm, what you call meager, mild temperature in bed. So that's why I have coughing, not coronavirus. I'm a man, but here's an interesting article about the nipples. Why do men have nipples? Always intrigue me. So let's find out the experts' viewpoint. Experts take on this. A lukewarm, lukewarm bed temperature last night. Lukewarm. How stuff works. Why do men have nipples? By Kristen Conger, October 5th, 2012. 5-minute read. So that's 10-year-old already. Male mice could be considered more highly evolved, so to speak, than human males in one anatomical regard, nipples. Whereas men develop a pair of nipples and do sometimes more that serves little purpose other than offering topographical variety on the chest. Male mice exit the womb with no such markings. They are furry belly smooth and nipple free. Alongside stallions and male platypuses, mice are among a small cluster of mammalian species that don't go ahead and sprout nipples as though in symbolic solidarity with their female kin. Stallions, that's male horses or stallions and male platypuses and mice have no nipples. Male mice. During early pregnancy, both male and female mice embryos form mammary tissue, the foundational tissue that becomes the full-fledged nipples, nerves, and glands that later facilitate female milk production. In 1999, Yale University researchers published a study identifying the protein responsible for lobbing off those nipple precursors in male mice. A few days after mice mammary tissue starts to form, it produces a protein known as PTHRP. In male mice, PTHRP signals the mammary cells to form male hormone receptors, and those hormones effectively destroy the tissue, leaving the he rodents nippleless. Nippleless. I'm having a hiccup. I'm standing and walking in my living room. I blow my nose. Male humans, meanwhile, undergo a similar embryonic process, minus the mammary tissue takedown. After 3 or 4 weeks, all embryos develop parallel mammary ridges called milk lines before the 23rd chromosomes XX or XY have a chance to tinker with sexual dimorphisms or physical traits that distinguish biological males from females. As features grow, those milk lines that extend from the top of the chest to the lower abdomen recede and typically leave behind a pair of nipples along with milk-producing glands called lobules. Duct ducts and the fatty tissue in between, source Adams. Without a protein like PTHRP stepping into action to trigger hormonal roadblocks as it does in mice, human embryos, male and female alike, are given the same set of internal plumbing in the breast region. Then, during puberty, estrogen in girls spurs breast tissue and mammary gland development. Therefore, the simplest explanation for men having nipples is that all human embryos start out with them, and evolution didn't get around to selecting against their existence on the male bust. Since nipples and healthy breast development are so closely linked with female reproductive success, evolutionary biologists suppose that the adaptive pressure to wean out male nipples wasn't strong enough. And though the purpose of male nipples rarely extends beyond the decorative, to lump them with appendix, wisdom teeth, and other vestigial anatomy would be a technical mistake. How could, after all, men's nipples be relegated to the evolutionary rubbish bin when they can, oh yes, they can produce milk? Can men breastfeed? Could dad trade in that bottle for a breast? Caroline Woodham, Getty Images. Trade in the bottle for breast. The possibility of male lactation may not seem as far-fetched as one might at first expect, since it can happen soon after baby boy exits the womb. The hormone prolactin, which facilitates breast milk production in new mothers, can pass from the placenta into an infant's body. After birth, that in utero prolactin bath can cause a newborn to spontaneously lactate, whether it's a boy or a girl, as both are bestowed the same breast anatomy during fetal development. This nursery phenomenon is referred to as witch's milk and often stops after a couple weeks. Source: Kaneshiro, witch's milk. Out of the blue, milk making later in a man's life might be more of a cause for alarm, however. Rarer than witch's milk, galactorrhea or spontaneous lactation in men often traces back to a testosterone deficiency instead of prolactin overdose. Source: Mayo Clinic. But while modern doctors might see galactorrhea as a result of a hormone imbalance, the evolutionary pioneer Charles Darwin might have suggested that a cause of galactorrhea was merely evidence of bygone ancestral habits. As outlined in his 1871 thesis, The Descent of Man, Darwin presumed that early man, ably outfitted with mammary glands, divvied up breastfeeding duties with women. Divided breastfeeding duties with woman. Source: Thompson. Anecdotal evidence also proves that while it doesn't happen very often, modern men can lactate and even breastfeed under similar hormonal influences as female lactation. In women, Pregnancy provokes the pituitary gland to ramp up prolactin production by 10 times its normal amount, which in turn prompts the lobules, milk-producing glands, to get to work, source Thompson. The same domino effect can occur from the male brain to breast, even though it lacks the pregnancy-mediated prolactin surge, and there are far fewer lobules for the hormone to fuel. Cuddling and spending time with babies has been shown to increase the amount of prolactin in dad's bloodstreams. That's interesting. Bloodstreams, prolactin. While tamping down on testosterone levels. While tamping down on testosterone levels. Combine that hormonal reaction with a physical stimulus of a suckling infant, and the male breast could very well yield milk. Scientists point to that physiological possibility as the reason why men in an African pygmy tribe, the Aka, have been documented breastfeeding their children, source Moorhead. In 2002, a Sri Lankan father of two also made headlines for breastfeeding his daughters after his wife died. Ooh, sorry about that. Male breastfeeding may raise eyebrows, and stoke controversy about gender roles and caregiving, but ultimately the male breast anatomy poses more of health risk than an atypical health additive for infants. So male breastfeeding would raise eyebrows, even though they tamp down on the testosterone levels. It's not a bygone era, and raise eyebrows and stoke controversy about gender roles and caregiving. But ultimately, the male breast anatomy poses more of a health risk than atypical health additive for infants. Atypical health additives. While much less common than in women, breast cancer does affect thousands of men. In 2012, for instance, nearly 2,220 American men were diagnosed with a condition that tends to attack the milk-producing lobules and ducts, source National Cancer Institute. That prevalence rate is high enough that some scientists consider male nipples and their underlying glandular network an adaptive flaw. Oh, there's an adaptive flaw. Source Swaminathan. If, like mice, the male nipples was nipped in the bud before birth, they wouldn't pose any potential problems or perplexing evolutionary questions about why they've stuck around for so long. If the male nipple was nipped in the bud before birth. That's a good expression. If the male nipple was nipped in the bud before birth, they wouldn't pose any potential problems or perplexing evolutionary questions about why they've stuck around for so long. If the male nipple was nipped in the bud before birth, or pose perplexing evolutionary questions. Who gets the extra nipples? It isn't uncommon for people to be born with a temporary or extra nipples that are left over from embryonic milk lines. By one count, the incidence rate of extra nipples is 1 out of every 40 newborn baby. Source: Mimony, Merlap, and Reisner. Typically, these bonus nipples also are more likely to show up on men and on the left side of the body. Interesting. Authors note, it's well established that Barbie isn't exactly designed according to naturally occurring female measurements. Her chiseled boyfriend, Ken, isn't a perfect chip off the old human male block either. Yeah, it's a chip off the man, chip off the father, chip off the old human male block either. Sure, his abs of steel or plastic rather, are achievable via Malibu caliber diets and exercise, but no gym rat will ever be able to sculpt pectorals quite that smooth, since Ken, and Barbie too, for that matter, has no nipples. But that doesn't imply that Ken is somehow less of a fake man for not having them. Evolutionary biologists have long puzzled over why male nipples have hung around their male chest for so long, considering the minimal purpose they serve, aside from offering another enticing spot for body piercing. Body piercing. Enticing spot for body piercing. Some consider them useless enough to qualify as vestigial anatomy. That's extra anatomy that are not necessary. They don't serve any significant purposes. Vestigial anatomy, like appendix. And in that light, when you think about it, nippleless, wisdom teeth free, and appendix absent could be the model of a future, more highly evolved man. That said, that's another good expression. That said, he would also be a man unable to reproduce and pass along that hunky musculature. Ken's ultimate Achilles heel. So I have to go to work, but I would like to remember the several expressions I learned. Achilles heel, vestigial anatomy, milk line, lactation. If the nipple was nipped in the bud before birth, or pose perplexing evolutionary questions. That said, what else? Pectorials, nipples, wombs, exits, wombs, nipples, lactation, breastfeeding, dad, stimulate. What else? I have to go to work now, man. Male breastfeeding possible. Brain to best. Div up. Let's look up the div up. I think I've encountered this word before, but it completely slipped my mind. Now this one, DictBox. I'm using DictBox. It's a collection of dictionaries online. Choose English. I would say a dived up. So div. divide profits, portion out earnings, divvy. Yeah, divided, divvying up. I don't know, like a car engine was divvied up and sped away. Div, part, portion, profit. So is that it? Is that what I read? Yeah, divvied up breastfeeding duties with the women. Divvied up, so divvied up. That's good expression.